Hello and welcome to week 9. This week we are taking a look at the power of prep or the power of preparation. That's preparing for a meeting, an interview, basically anywhere where you're going to meet with another person in the industry. It's always great to find out as much information as you can and really prepare for the meeting. As always, I'm your professor, Angelo Ford. I highly recommend you take a look at the letterboxd for the films that may help you with your job search, networking, general Hollywood movies. They're really good to take a look at if you get a chance. If you need to reach me, of course, you can send me email, aford@saddleback.edu, or through Canvas directly. So today we're starting with, looking at the professional backgrounds of somebody that you might be meeting with. It could be a little bit weird, you're approaching that like stalker level, research of people. And it really just, the key to not being creepy is not taking it too far. If you're looking at somebody's LinkedIn page or Facebook page and you're, looking up their networks, don't go clicking on their kids or following their wife's background or all these, minute personal details of their life. Try to stay to the professional stuff that's readily available, to keep it from feeling too creepy. What you're really trying to do is find out about the who they are as a person, what they do specifically. I mean, what were they doing before they were doing what they're doing now? Where are they in their career? At the level that they're currently at with their position. Where are they in the physical location? All of the wheres that go around somebody's personal background, and then the hows. How did they get there? How can you get there? What can we learn by checking into somebody's personal background? Things like their job title. Here we have some fictitious people. Samantha Jackson, she's currently an executive producer. What does that mean to you? What is an executive producer? What do you actually know about that title? Do all that kind of research. How does it fit into the big picture of what you want to do? Then looking further back, we've got her as a first assistant director before she was an executive producer. That's an interesting growth pattern. What does it take to go from being a first assistant director up to an executive producer? It tells me that she must have been on some kind of project where she really did well, and somebody pulled her up from that. It's not something that typically happens overnight. A jump like that. So there must have been something really substantial in there that that got the attention of somebody and really helped elevate her to the position of executive producer. Look into all of those type of things. We see that she was at a company called Sky Film Productions, and before that, she was at Paramount. How are those in relation to each other? If we do a little research, we find that maybe one is smaller. One's a small independent production company. So she went from being at a big, being a small fish in a big pond like Paramount to being a big fish in a smaller pond like Sky Film Productions. It's always great to look behind the companies of the people that have worked about it and get a bit more insight into what they are. Go through their projects. This is all this kind of stuff you can easily, readily find on the internet. I put my stuff, like the projects that I work on IMDb, on LinkedIn. It's very easy to find this type of information if there's somebody that you're looking to work for. You can see that Samantha worked on a couple different projects. She worked on some music videos. Look into the type of awards that person won. Research them. Who else got that award that year? Maybe they were on the same project together. Maybe that somebody that got that same award. And then look at their personal and professional affiliations. We can see that Samantha Jackson here is affiliated with the PGA, which is the Producers Guild of America, and SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild of America. That tells us she likely was an actor before she got into assistant directing or directing. So there's a lot you can really find out about people by simply just going through, their professional background, looking at what kind of jobs they had, what kind of projects, the professional accomplishments, and then organizations. Here you can see we have a few more fictitious people, Marcos, Deborah, and Nils. And if you go through and look at the comparison, some of them have worked on the same projects together. And maybe we know Deborah Smith. Maybe she's a personal friend who we worked on projects with. And, she can put us in touch with Samantha, who can help us get a producing position. That's kind of all of the things you want to be looking at when you're researching the professional backgrounds of people that you're going to be taking meetings with, people that you might be doing an interview with, or just associates that you might be meeting with over the course of normal business. It's always great to do your homework and prepare yourself by doing a little bit of professional background investigation on those people. Let's see. So when you are researching, personal info, some of the things that are easily looked, you can find on LinkedIn, on social media channels by just researching people. A lot of times their bios are printed for on the companies that they work for, and what you're looking for is information that can help you connect with them on a closer level. Again, not on that stalker level. The way to do that I find is state a common things like these right here. School. Where do people go to school? I went to Dodge College. I personally went to the University of California, Irvine. I went to UMass. I went to Saddleback College. You can find all that very easily on my public LinkedIn page. It's not something that I would feel somebody would be stalking me with if they knew. It's very easy to find, and I put it out there. Um, whether somebody was part of a fraternity, whether they played any kind of sports, a hobby, charities that they might participate in or help out with, or contribute to, associations. Again, these are all very easily findable things on something such as LinkedIn. People put them out there willingly, so it's not something that you have to worry about. Being at that too much of the stalker level. Again, just try to keep it professional when you're looking up a particular person that you want to try to meet with, or you're going to have an interview with, something like that. It's super key to understand the networks around them when you're looking up, the backgrounds of individuals like that. Look on the profiles on LinkedIn. Who are they tied to? How are they connected to other people? Again, your goal is to hopefully find some common ground of somebody that that person knows as well, and follow those connections and see what you can learn and where you overlap with them to give you things that are interesting to talk about together, that can really help build that common ground. Key element when you're doing all this research is to understand yourself as well as the people and corporations that you're looking up. How well do you actually know the business? If you feel like you don't really understand a lot of the terminology and where people meet and how the studios operate versus an independent production, you can learn a lot from the basic public info that's out there. Hollywood Reporter is an absolutely excellent source of information on the industry. Variety, Deadline Hollywood, Gawker, just general blogs. There's so many people out there now that have blogs about the industry that it's really easy to find that information just from a production manager or a producer who's actually out there blogging for their own interest. They're trying to put that info out into the world. It's really a good way for you to find more research on that as well. Of course, social media. There's so many groups these days. Facebook groups are a great source of information. Apply for some different groups. Go in and just kind of quote unquote observe the group. See what people talk about, see what the flow of information, how it kind of goes back and forth, and participate into conversations when it is something that you actually do have some input on. It really is a great way to learn more about the industry, and then for yourself to really have a better understanding of what you're comfortable talking with openly in forums like that. And again, online communities kind of an extension of the social media ones too. There's all kinds of different communities that you can participate in, including ones on things like Backstage and staffmeup.com. They have, communities on those job hiring websites that you can participate in and answer questions on forums, all kinds of things like that. So don't just limit yourself to, the easy Facebook group. Look for some of the other online communities that you might be able to find on the internet. One of the key elements is to identify interesting discussion topics. The book covers this quite well. Make sure you read this chapter on that. You're really looking for ways to set yourself apart from the crowd. Remember, you're going to be in a pile of resumes. You're going to be in a, when somebody does an actual, even if you go in for an actual interview, there's probably a sea of candidates who are all just like you. They're all dressed nicely. They all, look sharp. They've all prepped to go in. So what is it that you can do to stand out from that? set yourself apart from the crowd. This picture of me here is with Jay Leno. I was in a sea of other military people in this deployment somewhere overseas. I don't even remember where it was. It was like somewhere in the Middle East. But Jay Leno had landed as part of this USO tour, and I really wanted to meet him. I liked Jay Leno growing up, and I knew that he was into cars. I was into cars, and I knew that he grew up in a town in North Andover, Massachusetts, where I went to college. And so, when I got the opportunity to go shake his hand, I was like, "Oh, Mister, Leno, I went to college in the same town that you grew up in, North Andover. Used to drive all my favorite, muscle cars around up there." Oh, he shakes my hand. Why don't you come over here and have lunch? And I got to sit with him and a group of people for lunch. And we all were chatting about, Massachusetts and cars and all these other topics in common. Very easy to do, once you can identify what people are and you are interested in. And one of the key ways to do that is by making sure you're doing some prep. If I'm going to do a project, to pitch a project to Jay Leno, or I'm going to, meet somebody, in his organization, I'm going to make sure that I identify the things that he's interested in talking about that get him excited, so that we can continue those topics together and that he'll remember me versus the sea of other, people he might be meeting in that space. So again, it all comes back to those research topics that we were talking about before, where people went to school, fraternities, sports, hobbies, charities, associations, online communities. These are all open things that people normally publish about themselves that wouldn't be too creeped out, if you brought up in conversation to try to stimulate some interesting topics. So, of course, there's many, many more. Think about them on your own. What's unique to you is really what it comes down to. What are you comfortable talking to somebody with? Whether it's airplanes or sports or, a school that you both went to. It's identifying those commonalities. You really have to understand what it is that you have to offer. You do some time to do some inner reflection and know what you bring to the table. You should have done that personal pitch a couple chapters ago. Also research yourself when you're researching these people. Google your name. What comes up? Because that's what's going to come up when they look for you. If they are interested in you and they want to, possibly connect more, they're going to look at, Google my name right there. What comes up? Make sure you're doing that for yourself consistently as well, and then cleaning up any information out there that you don't necessarily think puts you in the best light. Try to clean that up as much as possible. Keep that personal pitch in development, so every single time you're making a cold call, you're meeting somebody new, you're trying to build that network, you're using that personal pitch like we talked about, the log line of you, just like a movie. What is it about you that's interesting, that people are going to want to know more about? Having that A story, who are you? Why should we care? What is it that you offer that somebody else doesn't? Some one liners, like we talked about previously, that you can inject into a conversation, whether it's about a car, an airplane, sports, just different things that you can keep the conversation interesting and moving from subject to subject without getting stale. It doesn't have to be for a long time. It has to be just enough for somebody to, get a spark in their brain of what it is that you have to offer so that they'll remember you by. And then, of course, that personal pitch, you're always going to be wanting to, take some time saying it in the mirror, saying it to your friends, just honing that 30-second pitch about who you are and what you have to offer, like we talked about previously. This picture, by the way, in the background is from The Prey, which is a feature film I worked on as the production manager. I didn't have any experience with movies when my friend decided to make this film, but what I knew I had to offer was, business experience. I knew how to do contracts. I knew how to, make offers and do agreements for like location rentals and that kind of stuff. And I adapted all of that business knowledge into the film realm. And in doing so, found that I had such a passion for it that I wanted to go back to school myself. And that's kind of what I discovered about myself that I had to offer. You don't learn it without actually getting out there. Go onto sets, figure it out, what it is that you want to do as a speciality. What do you want to be, a producer? Do you want to be a director? Do you want to be a locations manager? You have to go out there and get some experience on that to be able to show what you have to offer. when you do know what you have to offer, you have to know where you're going, and this is more ways than one. You know, it doesn't just mean know where you're going of where you want to be, as far as a direction of your speciality. It also means even when you do get down to having an interview, getting a meeting, you know, actually knowing where you're going. Confirm the time, the date, the place. Make sure you do it the day before. Work with an assistant so you know exactly where it is that you need to be. If you're anxious about that, consider making a dry run a couple days before, weekend before. Drive from wherever it is you're going to be leaving to your actual location of your interview, to the actual location of a meeting where you're supposed to give a pitch, uh, you know, or work on a set. Make sure you know how to get there. Don't just rely on GPS. I know a lot of you answered that in the question, like the quiz a little while back, that GPS is, you can count on GPS. You can't. Place like LA, a lot of times GPS doesn't even work with the high buildings. So you get downtown in downtown LA, and you can easily your GPS can get cut off, and you might not be able to find the specific location where you're going to. You show up 10 minutes late for an interview or for a meeting with a high level producer, no second chance. I guarantee it. So don't rely solely on your GPS. And again, if it makes you anxious, like it makes me anxious, take a drive so you know where the location is, know where you're going to park, scope out the area, know where you might be able to grab a coffee if it ends up they need to be, slip the meeting or something like that. I like to have a coffee and just kind of decompress after an interview or a meeting. So it's great to like look for those type of places in person if you're actually making that drive. When it is the time to go to the interview, make sure that you are at least 10 minutes, 15. I like being 15 minutes early. Use that time to sit in your car, relax, go in 10 minutes early, and then you're sitting there waiting. It's not a matter of, trying to get someplace or find a parking spot. LA is notorious for not being, for being extremely difficult to find parking spots. And the last thing that you want is be scrounging around, trying to figure out where you park as the clock is ticking down closer and closer to the one meeting that could determine whether or not you're getting a shot in Hollywood. It's not worth the risk. Get there early. Always be early. Um, if you are going to, say, a studio lot, a Warner Brothers, a Paramount, any of the big lots, make sure even on top of that you give yourself at least 10 minutes early to get to the location. Sometimes the guards get backed up and the line starts growing. And again, the last thing you want to be doing is sitting in the line of Warner Brothers, seeing that, big water tower up ahead, knowing that your meeting is about to slip by. It is the absolute worst feeling in the world. I have personally been there, and there's very little of a low, that's more of a low feeling, I can personally tell you, in life. It happened to me when I was going to a Disney meeting one time. And I was literally stuck at the gate, and I'm sitting there with that big, magical, hat, uh, Mickey hat, is sitting there in front of me, and I'm just not moving. And the time is ticking, ticking, ticking. And I literally skimmed into the meeting 5 minutes late, and it was like nobody even gave any interest of what I was saying. So I tell you from firsthand experience, give yourself some extra time. Always call ahead. Find out if anybody else is going to be interviewing with you. I did this recently, a couple years ago. I called the assistant ahead, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be introducing. You're going to be interviewing with this person, and this person." And I looked them up. I found some stuff about each one of them. I went in. I was able to have great conversation with them. I knew that one of the executives' daughters was going to film school by doing a little research. So we talked about film. Another one was very interested in aviation. So we literally spent the entire interview just him asking me about what it was like being a pilot because I kept dropping little bits of those aviation stories. So finding out whatever you can pre-meeting is extremely important when it comes down to who else is maybe interviewing you or meeting with you in a meeting that you didn't necessarily know was going to be there. Speaking of those assistants, they can literally make or break your career. It is extremely important that you're super friendly with everybody, first of all. Everybody that you meet along the chain, you have no idea who that person is. Um, so make sure you're super friendly when you're out there interviewing, to everybody that you run into, but especially the assistants. They have such a direct line into their boss's ear. They can literally get you hired or not get you hired, depending on their experience with you. So make sure that you're super courteous to them. You're turning up that charm level. You're trying to find a way to connect with them on a professional level, of course. Keep it always professional, but you're trying to be respectful, and you're trying to build common ground with them as much as you can, so that they can put it in a positive note for you. Hollywood dress code. This comes up a lot because it's slightly different than what we normally face out in the corporate world. Everything that you see in these images here is kind of like what you might encounter across a typical day. If you are going and interviewing, there's two key things to remember. One, they're like the golden rules, right? And the book covers them as well. Suits are for agents. Don't wear a full-on suit, male or female, unless you're going to interview with an agent. If you're going to a William Morrison or something like that, and you're going to be an agent's assistant, sure, put on the full tie suit, beautiful, nice heels, whatever it is, male or female, be completely dressed with the suit level. But if you're not, and you're going in to work for a producer, or you're going to be an assistant in an office, or you're going to be a PA somewhere, you have to really find that balance of what's appropriate. And you do it by seeing what other people in that area are wearing. First of all, is a great way to do it. Be observant anytime that you're in an environment where you might want to be working, and then you just want to do slightly better for say an interview or a meeting. These two people here are dressed nicely for that occasion. Maybe a suit jacket, but jeans and a nice pair of shoes, a button-up shirt. The book does a really good job of going through this, so make sure you read on pages 154 and 155 are really good info in the book. Of course, it's always changing. You has to be tailored to your personal level of satisfaction, or your personal style, of course. But do some research. Go on the internet, and there's so many different blogs of people now that love to blog and Instagram and be influencers about everything they do. You can easily find, how do I dress for a Hollywood studio interview or an independent production company interview. Just do those searches. The big point of it is to not be a slob. Don't have your shirt completely untucked, or stains on your shirt, or coming up wearing it. I literally have seen people come to meetings in t-shirts. And that might be fine when you're actually working on a production team or something, but when you're trying to get hired, make sure you're dressed appropriately, and you look like you're there to do professional work. Some fashion do's and don'ts. Again, the background picture of here, people are all very well within the realm of what you would expect on a Hollywood interview, first impression meeting type of thing. Focus on the fit. Make sure you're wearing clothes that are fitting you appropriately. They're not super tight, or buttons popping out, or it looks like it's a comfortable fit, and you feel comfortable in it. Because remember, the more comfortable that it feels on you, the more likely it is to give you confidence and actually, shine through. So make sure you're focusing on that feel as well, finding that balance. Not much does what's the way I want to say that? A good haircut can go a long way. Let's put it that way. Male and female. Getting your hair done, making it look nice. I don't have the best hair, obviously. My hair is thinning these days, but I can still go and pay for a good haircut, and a barber can make it look really nice. My wife goes and gets her hair done, and it can look fabulous. It really does make a huge difference. And it helps with your confidence. Your persona shines through when you feel good like that. You look in the mirror and you're like, damn, my hair looks pretty good with this cut. You know, you don't skimp on it. Spend a little money and get a good haircut before an interview. It's a really good way that goes a long way. Don't over accessorize. A watch is fine. A bracelet's fine. A nice necklace, a lapel pin. These are all great individually, but all together, everything piled on, too much. It comes off as trendy. It comes off as you're trying too hard. So accessorize makes, especially if you have a nice brooch or something, or you have like a really great purse. When we talk over about dues standing out, If you have an item that really makes you stand out that you can talk about, oh, this was my great great grandmother's lapel. She was a fighter in World War II, who helped fly airplanes from Canada to Newfoundland to be used in the war. Wow, what an amazing story, right? So if you have a piece, an item that you can wear that really helps you stand out, a really vintage purse or an old watch or a nice pair of shoes, sure. It's good to have one or two things, but just don't go overboard and over accessorize. And then, of course, the last don't on this, I'm not even joking. Like, I have literally seen people show up to interviews in t-shirts, thinking like, "Oh, this is a relaxed culture. I'm going to come in t-shirts and board shorts, come in a t-shirt and cargo shorts and my rainbow flip-flops, because that's kind of the culture around here. So I want to show that I fit in. Absolutely not the time for it. Once you're hired, sure, that is the time for it. But don't go too casual when you're doing the interviews, when you're doing meetings, people. Treat it like a professional environment. It absolutely is. For this week, chapter 14 on page 156, we've got the exercises. For this week, they want the one in there is to choose someone to work for. Find somebody on LinkedIn that you would like to work for. Find a company that you're interested in, find the person that works there. Do some research on both the company and the person. And then, just like you did a cold call to me, go ahead and do a cold call to them. Just see what becomes of it. You have nothing to lose. It's great practice, and it's a good little exercise. Again, most people aren't going to do this, so if you are the person that does it, you are the person who feels compelled to do it, I congratulate you. You're really, that is the way to be the tip of the spear, and really push to try to get into the industry. If you're not interested in it, that's no big deal either. You don't have to. Just realize that by not doing these exercises, you really are putting yourself at a disadvantage when it comes to finding a job out there in the sector. I really love this one. Everybody should do this second part of the exercise. I get it if you don't want to do the first part. You're not comfortable doing cold calls yet. That's no problem. But everybody should be able to do this exercise because it's applicable even if you're not going to work in the entertainment industry. This is still a great thing to be prepared for going out into any industry. And that's looking into your closet, and assemble an interview outfit or a meeting outfit, something that you'd feel comfortable holding a meeting in. Go through your closet and try to build two outfits. Look for something unique that really says something about you. Look for something that's sharp. Try not to go overboard. Follow all the tips of the do's and don'ts and everything that you've read in the book and the chapter and everything you might kind of do on your own for research. But really try to build two outfits from your existing clothes that you'd be really happy in going into an interview. If you don't have anything, consider saving up for something. Again, it doesn't have to be super fancy. I have seen people that look literally incredibly professional wearing $75 from H&M. So it is very possible in today's world to find clothes that look good. Granted, those clothes aren't going to last very long. You're not going to go to work in these kind of clothes for 6 months. They're probably going to be ripped after a few washes because the quality's not great, but you're going to look good enough for an interview or for taking that meeting. So it's always great to have at least two outfits that you can build like that for yourself. Of course, do all your own research. An investment in your time today, what does it really cost you? It's literally just time. When you're out there and you have a full time job, that's a different story. Obviously, you're giving up time to do it. But if you have the time now, go through and research on your own what looks good for an interview, different kinds of clothes, some slight goals that you might want to be able to buy down the road for yourself. All that research you today is going to pay off for tomorrow, whether it's for a company, a individual person, or even for the clothes that you might want to wear to an interview or a meeting. That's all I have for today. I hope it's an enjoyable one. This is chapter 13, I believe, 14. It is chapter 14, the employing the secret power of preparation. If it was helpful to you, I would love it if you could leave a thumbs up on the video and a comment whether or not, if it wasn't helpful you, leave it a comment. That's fine too. And I'll try to adapt as we can. I hope it is at least enjoyable for you as we're going through the presentations. And Stay tuned for more. Hope you have a safe week. Thanks.